Let's discuss. Hey everyone, it's Rachel back again with another video, and today I am very stoked because I will be checking out 2 new tracks from Periphery, Wildfire and Zagreus. I love Periphery. I think I really started diving into them. I did like a 500 sub video on the channel when I hadn't listened through their whole discography, and then from there I really dove into it, and ever since then I've been very into them, waiting on the release cycle, which is now here. So I'm very stoked. They have a new album that's coming up. I'll link all of the promotional information in the description. It's called Dent is Not a Genre, which has been the talk of the community, really. Well, one of the things people in the community have been talking about this week. But anyway, all of their social media and promotional links will be in the description. I'm going to stop talking and we are going to get straight into it. Oh. The transition. Rip me up. Ooh, those melodies are interesting for Spencer. And they're all... Harmony. We're just gonna bounce right over the top of that. Interesting. Like, it's still very Periphery. I just think that melody is a bit unexpected. What is happening? It sounds jazzy. That cymbal ride is super jazzy. Some sax for us on a Thursday. Unexpected with Periphery. I can feel that part. It's gonna grow on me. I was gonna say. Oh! So when it popped up as the next video it was like the official audio after I finished the music video, I noticed it was like a 30-second difference in the length of the video. So I just wanted to see what the outro was like for real after that breakdown, because Periphery always keeps like an interesting outro. So I feel like with 30 whole seconds, I probably missed something, and I'm not really willing to do that. So forgive me, we're just gonna listen to the... I don't know if it would do. It will do something. Orchestral, and I'm glad I didn't miss this. Okay, now. Okay, so now we will keep it moving into the next track. Oh, the grooving. That riff is gorgeous. Ooh. This, you can hear the mix, how well Periphery is always done this. Man. So it's so. Oh wait. Such a versatile vocalist. I don't know which way it will go here, but I'm excited what this is building to. Woes and O's I don't mind. Oh! Some weird riffs in this track in the best way. could never be sure. More of like a eerie instrumental vibe here than when like the first break in Wildfire, you could tell it was gonna go jazz. Cinematic though. I like that. Periphery, Wildfire, and Zagreus. Let's discuss. So I'll start with Wildfire since that was the first video or the first song in the video, at least. In that track, it had more aggression and an edge to it, I think, overall. Obviously, with Periphery, as I had mentioned, there are like multiple, you should not go into it expecting one thing or another. They are a progressive band, which I feel like is becoming more of a point of conversation as people are kind of like, branching out, who were listening to like strictly metalcore or deathcore, even, or coming over from more hardcore genres, because a lot of times that will have like shorter tracks. Beatdown tracks are typically pretty short, and then you get into more progressive stuff where, for example, a lot of people with these new Sleep Token songs, we're kind of seeing that when you get to the end of the Summoning, some people probably had never heard anything like that, but as you get more into and that's not to say these two songs sound similar to, they had completely, the funk in the Summoning. This is like Periphery really kind of putting the first two cards on the table for a look into this next album. And also, actually I'll talk about that when I get to the song, but I'll stick to Wildfire for now. I felt more interested with that one in, well, first of all, the riffs were grabbing my attention off the bat. Some interesting chord progression here that sort of aligns with what I was mentioning in some of the vocal harmonies, like just a bit different than what you'd expect. And I feel like that's important too, because with Spencer's voice and the harmonies I was talking about, that becomes more associated with what makes Periphery kind of stand out. But also you hear everything else going on, and there is a lot more to it than that, which makes them at least stand out. Even if you're not really a fan of Periphery, you can probably agree that they're not really your typical band. With this, you have that jazz break there, and then the ending of this track had like, orchestral elements to it. It had that really like wrapped up the song kind of feel, which is important, and it like, got heavy before it did that, which kind of reflects some of the moods of the song. It's not going to be possible to flash back to every mood of a Periphery song really, but they do a great job of like ending the songs up with a way that does it justice, if that makes sense. When you have something like this that goes through so many different sounds and brings in elements that kind of make it sound a little wacky, the ending can't just be so abrupt, or it'll feel, maybe if it transitions into another track or something, but when they know what they're doing coming out of the gate with the first two singles. But Wildfire has such a different mood to me than Zagreus, which is essentially probably what they're trying to do, similar to what I felt with the two Sleep Token tracks being released day to day. Like, they were back to back for me because I listened to them at once, but one showed a little bit of one side of them and is maybe a bit more accessible, and then the second was heavier, more out on a limb and stuff. But Periphery is still, with both tracks, you know what I mean? It doesn't have one that I would consider the same as like Chokehold from Sleep Token or anything. Zagreus would definitely be like the lighter track, or the track I felt went into the lighter elements, which I will start talking about in a second. But Wildfire, not only that, the variation in the line "burning like a wildfire" to the different experiences you get with that, it really just drove the song for me. So I'm leaning towards that as my favorite of the two, but there are different things to love about them, so it will be hard for me to tell. I'm probably gonna keep but you know, it's a 7-minute song, so it's hard to condense it down into like talking about it for just a minute. It doesn't feel like that's appropriate for all that it is. But anyway, in short, I will be doing a video for the whole album, so I'm sure I'll get to talk more then about like my thoughts in full. But after hearing Wildfire once, then those are my thoughts on it. And then for it to be paired with Zagreus, which kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still huge moments in it. Some interesting so it had moments that were very juggernaut feeling. I feel like that because with Periphery's albums, I feel like when you listen to them, it's easily identifiable, but there were like at least one moment in there that I need to go back to and re-listen, having only listened to it once, and kind of after I do my outros and stuff, I'll be able to dig into what the internet is saying about the songs, and I'm sure there are way bigger Periphery fans than me. Some people will have the timestamps and everything, so I just want to go verify that before I speak on it. But it felt a little bit like a nod to certain sounds past, which I haven't really felt or didn't really feel listening to Wildfire. It felt like a whole, you know, it kind of setting out I'm not sure what words I'm going for there, but you know what I mean? It felt like its own, there was no moment when I was like, oh, this reminds me. But yeah, with Zagreus, I did feel that there was a riff and part of the breakdown too. And I don't want to sound dumb, so I don't want to say what I felt like it was from. I'm going to have to like dig further into it. But if anyone knows that album really well, I'm going to go look and I'll probably know by the time that I post this video. But if I'm wrong, rip, because it's on the internet forever. But at the same time as I was talking about like the interesting riffs and stuff, it has the point where it opened up, it almost sounded like the style of guitar in that solo kind of lets off, and then you get that "Will It Ever Be?" That is just so beautiful and such a different kind of pace than a lot of the song. And I guess that's sort of relative to what I was just saying with, you know, kind of expect the unexpected with Periphery and them being a band that for sure keeps things interesting. The outro on Zagreus was so I feel like it may be one that doesn't land for everybody, but stuff that has that like cinematic build in it, that really lands for me. And especially with like a good pair of headphones on, I just love that, and it fits the rest of the song for sure, because having an 8-minute track that goes to many different places like that, it's sort of in the same realm as like a cinematic experience, depending on how your brain works. For some, maybe like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and that is not true, and that's fine, because for me, I know that I have a sort of a weird brain, so sometimes I say stuff that people are probably like, huh? But anyway, that's how I feel about Periphery. It feels like more of a production, and like so much has gone into it, where sometimes that's not quite the case, and that's fine too. There's a place for everything, I think, as long as I enjoy it, a place for everything in my listening, I mean. And these are songs, so there are a few bands that have put out longer albums the last few years, and I don't think the time was utilized like to where I really needed the album to be that long. But when it comes to seeing a runtime for a Periphery album that's over an hour, that's something that I'm like, yeah, like I'm excited for, and I want to see that, because these two singles pretty much speak for themselves as to why that is. They require the room to do everything that they can do, whereas if it were to be 8 minutes of something super repetitive or something that doesn't make you go, you know, kind of turn your head or raise your eyebrow, that's completely different and can get boring or grating, and I never feel that way in listening to any of Periphery's releases, and I don't feel like it will be any different with Dent is Not a Genre, especially because these two singles have me thinking this will be one of my favorite releases for them. And as I had mentioned, this will be my first time being a fan of Periphery as they release an album, so that may have, I got into them very shortly after Hail Stand came out, and it was a band I had heard a ton, you know, and I don't know what it was, I was way less online, and I did a ton of finding my music on Reddit, so I of course had heard of them, like being in the Gent subreddits and stuff, and I had heard bits and pieces, and I was always like, yeah. But for whatever reason, you know, those bands you just knew you should look at and didn't. And then I finally did, like, right after Hail Stand came out. So, I mean, it sort of counts. Like, I knew who they were. But that was the album that got me into them, got me to... I made a video. I went back through their discography. I was obsessed with their discography for a good minute after that. And, yeah, so this is going to be a special one, I think, especially I don't like using special twice, but it's fine. Anyhow, I'm sort of just rambling at this point, but these two side by side, very promising. I'm stoked for this album. I will continue to cover Periphery as these come out. I will link both of the official audio visualizers that I used in this video in the description, as well as any pre-order links for Dent Is Not a Genre, all of Periphery's social media, all of that good stuff will be there, as well as my link tree, which will have the new link, which is for Patreon, that has just rolled out. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined and signed up. I have had a blast creating, getting that content ready and creating some of it and all of that, and I'm just really blown away by the response, so thank you. And there will also be my Instagram profile, the link for the Discord server, which is where our community is based if you want to come join the Discord. We have music-related conversation, a lot of conversation unrelated to music as well, just sort of a lot going on in there, so if you're interested, come check it out. That will all be there. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it.